Good morning, America. This is Realtor Pat Kapowich, your host of Kapowich on Real Estate. There is a river of real estate information coming down the mountain. So if you love numbers or current housing information, you have come to the right place. We will wade into every one of the topics. The goal of this podcast is to improve your stream of real estate information with timely and accurate housing topics and or enhance the quality of your real estate transactions. We have a great lineup of guests for this podcast series. However, I've been advised to first have a few programs in the podcast ecosystem. But first, let's get right into a few trends in the housing landscape and quick case studies for the trending topic, are we in a housing bubble? Housing stock, also known as housing inventory or housing supply, has been remarkably starved for so long that an uptick in inventory will not dramatically change the landscape of this seller's market. Traditionally, a balanced real estate market has 6 months of housing stock. According to the National Association of Realtors, America has been trending with, quote, near all-time low 2.0 months supply, parentheses, real supply is lower. Act 1, Scene 1, housing bubble, also known as housing crash, question mark. Let's look back to before the Great Recession to see how home loans were given, often to the unqualified, which helped create the once-in-a-lifetime economic crisis. As a former loan officer, I was amazed at how easy the loan process had become. I kept thinking, didn't we learn anything from the mortgage fraud during the savings and loan crisis of the early 1990s or the dot-com era of the early 2000s? Stated loans encouraged by loan officers meant income and job history written on the home buyer's loan application, however questionable, will remain unverified. Home buyers could purchase a home with little to no down payment. Their adjustable rate home loans had low initial teaser rates that would eventually increase the home buyer's monthly payment above the property owner's willingness or ability to pay. As the Great Recession set in, banks hired untrained loss mitigators to handle the liquidation of their distressed properties. These loss mitigators dealt with bank-owned properties, also known as foreclosed properties, and distressed properties occupied by distressed sellers. Distressed sellers were attempting to sell their home, which often was worth less than the loan amount. But the bank had to agree to a home sale in which the bank takes a loss on the home's loan. Loss mitigators, who were overworked, underpaid, and supported by skeleton staffing, handled huge volumes of business. To make matters worse, the loss mitigators dealt with usually one realtor in a large market. At the same time, there were about 1.2 million trained realtors in America, but instead, through the wisdom of the bank's loss mitigators, they employed 1%, less than 1% of the 1.2 million realtors. As a result, the properties were not being serviced. The homes sat with a steady flow of price reductions until sold. Additionally, the offer and counteroffer process to sell these properties was a comedy of errors. The rush to sell distressed and foreclosed properties accelerated the frequent price reductions, which imploded the property values of American neighborhoods. As a result, homeowners who bought the traditional way with 10%, 15%, 20, 25% down, who submitted a fully documented loan application, which was verified by the lender's underwriters, saw the value of their home and its equity diminish throughout the Great Recession through no fault of their own. Now let's fast forward. Let's compare that real estate market's home loan application process with today's. As a result of the Great Recession, the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, the 11th Congress of 2009-2010, became law. Thanks to Senator Chris Dodd and Congressman Barney Frank, the shady loan application practices stopped. And since then, home buyers must fully qualify for home loans. The Consumer Protection Financial Bureau describes the Dodd-Frank standard of home loan application as ability to repay / qualified mortgage rule, which requires a creditor to make a reasonable, good faith determination of the consumer's ability to repay a residential mortgage loan according to its terms. What a concept. Homebuyers must be qualified to buy a home. Now, let's address the housing bubble question comparison with household savings. According to the St. Louis Federal Bank Bureau of Economic Analysis, in 2007, Americans had in their savings accounts $353 billion. Conversely, thanks in part to the pandemic, Americans were saving more and spending less. In 2020, Americans had $2.9 trillion in savings. Last year, in 2021, we had $2.3 trillion in our savings accounts. Okay, let's set the unemployment numbers side by side. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the non-farm jobs increased 390,000 last month. Conversely, in 2007, the unemployment rate was 7.08%, when now in early June 2022, our unemployment is 3.6%. So let's compare home ownership positions. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, in 2021, 65.5% of Americans were homeowners. As of March 5th of 2022, 35.2% of homeowners own their property free and clear, meaning over a third of American homes are paid in full. American homeowners have never had this much equity in their properties. Conversely, the majority of home buyers in 2006, 2007, 2008 had little to no equity during the ownership of their properties. That sets the stage for part one of this series for the trending "Are we in a housing bubble?" question. Act 2. Trending: how to improve and add value to residential real estate transactions. Today's trending topic of historical documents associated with a property. No, this is not about if the home is registered with a city for historical significance. This is about a seller's full disclosure of the property. For example, in my market, we have a home seller's questionnaire that seeks historical documents as follows: reports, inspections, disclosures, warranties, maintenance, recommendations, estimates, studies, surveys, or other documents, whether prepared in the past or present, including any previous transaction pertaining to 1, the condition or repair of the property, or any improvement on this property in the past, now, or proposed, or 2, easements, encroachments, or boundary disputes affecting the property, whether oral or in writing, and whether or not provided to the seller. Check the box yes, check the box no. Note, If yes, provide any such documents in your possession to buyer. Now, this paragraph is often ignored, which opens up the home seller to post-sale litigation. Disgruntled home buyers file the majority of residential real estate claims. It is my experience that the best home sales have full disclosure. The prospective home buyer who has been fully informed of the property through the seller's full disclosure, A, buys with consumer confidence, B, rarely becomes disgruntled, and C, has a hard time later explaining to a judge, jury, arbitrator, or mediator that they have been harmed. Because in lack of disclosure cases, also known as bad house cases, the home buyers who develop buyer's remorse often proclaim and repeat the phrase, "I would not have bought this property had I known about X, Y, or Z." Now, during my career, a fully disclosed property sells faster, sells for more money, stays sold, meaning the sale will not fall apart during the transaction, and tends to have a happier home buyer before, during, and after the sale. Sellers who over-disclose rarely have home sales that fall apart. The buyers know what they are buying, and the sellers know what they are selling. And the chance of any property surprise is greatly diminished. Act 3, Scene 1, trending in U.S. home sales, pending home sales, under contract, meaning that we have a ratified home sale purchase contract between a home buyer and home seller. According to the National Association of Realtors, in April 2022, based on a sampling of single-family homes, condos, co-ops, and townhouses, from 170 multiple listing services across America, the Western United States experienced a downward shift in home sales by 4.3% month over month. The Midwest saw a month over month increase in home sales of 6.6%. In the Northeast, there was a drop of 16.2% of home sales, and in the South, a 4.7 month over month decrease in home sales. Combined, that represents a 3.9 fewer home sales in April that we saw in March. However, we still have a strong seller's market. I've never experienced a housing market with this low of inventory. Housing inventory for May 2022 is still at historic lows. According to the National Association of Realtors, during the last 10 months, the percent change year over year for existing home sales median price has been up in double digits. At the same time, the percent change year over year of total U.S. home sales have been down single digits. So the number of sales are down, but the prices are up. According to the National Association of Realtors, the existing single-family home median sale price for April was $391,200. That represents 121 months of year-over-year price gains. In the next podcast, we will look into more housing trends in the residential real estate umbrella, including but not limited to inventory prices, enhancing the quality of residential real estate transactions, and adding value through property improvement. This is your host, Realtor Pat Kapowich. Please remember to subscribe to the Kapowich on Real Estate podcast in all your favorite podcast services.